Good evening, members, and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Cabinet. I'm Paul Cooper. I'm the Deputy Leader of the Council, and I am chairing this meeting in the absence of David Burton, our leader. I have received apologies tonight from Councillor David Burton and from Councillor John Perry, and looking around me, I can see there are no other absentees, which moves me on to item number 2, urgent items. So there's an urgent item, item 21, which is the second quarter finance performance and monitoring report. That has been added, and I understand from speaking informally that all members have received that, and people are nodding in agreement. And there are two urgent updates. There's an urgent update to item 12, which was the issues arising from overview and scrutiny, and the information from the ONS scrape has been published. And item 20, with the fees and charges for the next municipal year, there are updated appendices, so increase in waste crime penalties and inclusion of the mooring fees. Has that been read, members? And I assume from the nods that we don't need any time to digest those. Perfect, thank you very much. Moves us on to item number 3, which is notification of visiting members. There are no members physically present, but I can see that Councillor Jeffrey is online. Councillor Jeffrey, if you'd like to introduce yourself and which item you wish to speak upon. Councillor Jeffrey, good evening and welcome, and thank you very much. Move on then to item number 4, which is disclosures by members and officers. Are there any disclosures this evening from members or officers? No, fabulous. Item number 5, are there any disclosures of lobbying? Councillor Garton.
Not recently, but I've been in the past lobbied on item 17.
Thank you very much, Councillor Garton, and I can see no other disclosures of lobbying. Item number 6, I can see no reason to consider any members in exempt session. If anyone else can say now, I'll take that as no, thank you. Item number 7, minutes of the meeting held on the 25th of October 2023. I have seen no factual errors in the minutes. Does anyone have any comment on the accuracy of the minutes? Therefore, I move that I will sign the minutes as an accurate meeting of the meeting. Is that agreed, members? Agreed, thank you very much. There are no petitions this evening, so that moves us on from item number 8. Items number 9 and 10, there are no questions from local residents or indeed from members to the Cabinet. And item 11, to my knowledge, there are no items referred to the Cabinet for reconsideration. Which means then item number 12 is issues arriving from overview and scrutiny. So there are two issues arising from overview and scrutiny this evening. So there's the scrape on the water management cycle, and there's the scrape on the safety in the town centre. As far as I'm aware, there were absolutely no comments from overview and scrutiny on the water management cycle, and there were very minimal comments referring to the scrape on safety in the town centre. Do any members have any comments on these items? I'll take that as a no. In that case, is that noted, members? Fantastic, thank you very much. Which moves us on to item number 13, which are matters referred to the executive by any other committee. I'm not aware of any of anything this evening. And item number 14, any matter relating to a serious service failure or nuisance, and I'm delighted to say that there is nothing to report this evening. And indeed, item number 15, there are no receipts of written representations from members of the council. Moves on then to item number 16, which is a Cabinet forward plan. I have noted that there are a number of matters on there which have been dealt with since the publication of this agenda. largely I've made a number of decisions following the Policy Advisory Committee on Planning, Infrastructure and Economic Development. I don't think that needs to be noted because I think Democratic Services are well aware of that. But is there any other comment on the forward plan this evening, members? No, perfect. Thank you very much. Which then takes us to the reference from Council. Item number 17, the notice of motion relating to Kent County Council's draft minerals and waste plan, and specifically inclusion of Oaken Woods as a further extension to Hermitage Quarry. I think we've all read our papers and we're all party to the discussions which were taken at Council, and that has been referred on to us. I'm not sure that I have anything further to add in terms of introduction. Therefore, the visiting member this evening who wishes to speak on this item is Councillor Jeffrey. So I hand over to Councillor Jeffrey to address the Cabinet.
Thank you. Can I just check that I'm now going out online because I wasn't at the start? Has that been fixed?
What was sorry? What hasn't been fixed, Councillor Jeffrey?
I wasn't no one could hear me online apparently. I had a message.
Oh, I'm delighted to say we can hear you now.
Okay, well, they couldn't hear me on the YouTube broadcast. Okay, well, I'll make a start, assuming that's been fixed. So firstly, I'm sorry I'm not there in person, but I guessed you might not want the lurgy that I've succumbed to. You're probably a bit hacked off with me for pushing you on the council's position on this, and but given that this has got national importance, I'm not going to make an apology for that one. As your briefing note sets out, KCC consulted on two documents earlier this year, the Minerals and Waste Local Plan and its supporting site plan for Hard Rock. While the Minerals and Waste Local Plan is trundling ahead and goes back out for Reg 19 consultation next month, it's the supporting sites plan that I am most concerned about. Last month, at their Environment and Transport Committee, KCC stated that the sites plan had been put back by 12 months to allow them to assess it further, and that a second call for sites was issued. That was in response to the huge outcry, which saw 25,000 responses, and the KCC officer stated that she's using the 12 months delay to work on the sites plan, and that the emails received by KCC last month lobbying that committee would also be considered in that review. Therefore, I believe there is still an opportunity for this council to influence the sites plan. And given that 50% of the Oaken Woods site is in our borough, we, I believe, should take that opportunity. Currently, this council's position is supportive of the loss of the irreplaceable ancient woodland. The word irreplaceable is from the NPPF, and the council's response calls for restoration of the site, yet you cannot restore that which is irreplaceable once it is lost. The area in question would be larger, will be a larger loss of ancient woodlands than that lost by HS2 and Lower Thames Crossing combined. It would be the largest loss in this century, in this country in this century. It is therefore of national importance. There is no evidence that the translocation of ancient soils is effective in maintaining its unique biome. And I'm going to quote briefly from the government's own HS2 website. There is limited robust public evidence of the effectiveness of ancient woodland soils translocation, and a paucity of long-term studies have been carried out. There are none known which look in detail at the soil and soil biota in retained ancient woodlands compared with translocated soils and newly created woodlands habitat. Therefore, you cannot simply move the soil. We are therefore in a position where this council is supporting the largest destruction of an irreplaceable ancient woodland this century, just a few years after we declared a biodiversity emergency. And I do trust you can see the contradiction in that. However, KCC have said they are looking at further evidence on the sites plan, and this council still has the opportunity to change its mind and to influence them in a positive way. So I'm calling on you this evening to use this opportunity to review and reverse the position of the council. And you are obviously aware that the majority of councillors want our position reversed. So please do listen to us. Thank you.
Councillor Jeffreys, thank you very much. And I don't know for what reason you think we would ever be hacked off for listening to you. I see that Councillor English has arrived in the chamber. Good evening, Councillor English. You've indicated to me that you wish to speak on this item, and I would be delighted to hear you. If you could come to the front and address us, and if there are any other agenda items that you do wish to speak on, if you could let me know now, and I will make a note of it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I may wish to say a few remarks on the town centre strategy update, but otherwise, no.
Thank you.
As you know, there was a considerable discussion around the Policy Advisory Committee's reference to your good self. And for whatever reason, it was essentially of timetables and deadlines. We ended up not being able to send a revised response and ending up with the original response being our position for the council. I think it's fair to say that we have an opportunity going forward, as Councillor Jeffrey has remarked, to consider our position. I'm not necessarily expecting you to come out with a revised position here and now, because frankly, this is a technical and complicated issue, and it does bear serious consideration. But in terms of our original response, which is effectively our response, I would say that from a purely technical planning perspective, it was deficient in that it did not take account of biodiversity, habitat, and other issues. Whatever responses council makes in the long term with the county council's processes, I do believe that it should properly weigh the evidence and the issues. It may be, sincerely hope not, but it may be that you end up reiterating the Cabinet's current position. However, if you do so, you need to have demonstrated that you have taken into account all the relevant planning material considerations. That includes economic considerations, by the way, as well as biodiversity ones. But you need to have shown that you have weighed those. And the original response, in my opinion, and the opinion of the PAC, did not do that. We need to show, as part of the local planning process, and the minerals waste plan is a major part of the local plans process, that we have weighed this in a professional manner and come to the right decision. Or alternatively, that we can at least justify that decision on the basis of the material planning considerations. I do not believe our original response does that, because it failed completely to weigh the biodiversity and habitat issues. You can come to different conclusions on what those issues mean, weighed against the economic considerations, but our original response did not weigh those. It just talked about some noise and highway issues. So I'm asking the Cabinet to at least seriously consider making a competent, in my view, planning response that takes into account all the factors. It's my personal view that if you do that, you will end up driven to a closing this. However, I don't think you need to make that decision tonight. What I think you do need to do is resolve to reconsider this properly and make a full submission to the County Council in due course as part of their revised call for sites that takes into account all the relevant planning issues. And if you do think that this is a genuine exception to the protection for ancient woodlands, I would seriously ask you to just at least put some evidence and some argument into that response as to why that is the case, because that was not in the original response.
Councillor English, thank you. And I think if I can just point out at this stage that several of the matters that you've asked for have already been dealt with. The original response was sent prior to ratification. as everyone is aware. However, the revised response, which was sent post the Policy Advisory Committee meeting, was indeed sent to Kent County Council. And I have spoken with the head of planning at Kent County Council and can confirm that she certainly received it and indeed read that document. And I can confirm today with Democratic Services and Strategic Planning that that item not only was the head of planning aware of it, that it was sent formally from this council. So I appreciate that that doesn't answer all of the questions that some people have posed, but I think it does go a long way in strengthening the original letter, which I certainly agree with you, Councillor English and Councillor Jeffrey, that the original letter, which I had agreed to, I make no bones about that, didn't go far enough, but certainly the revised response had been sent. So first to indicate, I've got Councillor Russell.
Mr. Chairman, just if I may, I got a message from Councillor Perry
Yes.
that on the YouTube the audio cannot be heard.
Yes, thank you. So we all can hear on the YouTube. Perfect. Thank you very much, Councillor Garson. Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you for that clarification, actually, because that was related to my first question, and I'd like to come back again if I could in a moment. So that letter that was dated the 7th of September was sent then. So quoting directly from that letter, we sent that we are conveying the strength of feeling relating to this allocation. The development will cause harm to biodiversity. We reference exceptional circumstances, and we say that it's for the County Council to demonstrate that there exists exceptional circumstances that would meet policies set out in the NPPF. So I think from the District Council's point of view, that has certainly covered some of the points that have been mentioned with regard to that. Actually, maybe I won't come back, I'll just carry on. Debating the motion itself, which is what I thought it got referred here to do, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but so it says that the full council has not had the opportunity to express its opinion, but the consultation itself has been through the pack, the pied pack. It then got referred to overview and scrutiny via a call-in, and it got debated there and got taken no further. It then got put to full council and has now arrived at us here to have a look at the motion itself. So that's where we are with it. So not forgetting that any visiting member, as Councillor English has, can turn up to any of these meetings and speak. Yeah, that's probably what I'd say about that. The next paragraph, we've got the ancient woodland covers 50 hectares. I've been trying to do a bit of research into this because I've also seen that it's a 45 hectare site. I've also seen on the Gallagher side of things that they're saying that it's 35 hectares of plantation removed. I think these are, I like to deal in evidence and fact, and I think these are points that we need to clarify moving forwards in this process. Again, we're saying on the third paragraph, just 1% is for heritage restoration. That doesn't sound a lot, but if we're 1 million tonnes a year, that's 10,000 tonnes of heritage stone divided by 18 wheeled lorries. That's 555 lorries of that heritage stone that will need to come in from elsewhere if that's not coming from that quarry. And it does say that obviously at current rates, it'll be 20 years. But I think that's if the recycled aggregates don't take over, because that is a growing market. All of these things, I'm sure that KCC will be weighing up in their decision making. So what I'd like to go on to is that it is a KCC process that we're obviously inputting into. So we've had the Regulation 18 consultation, which is now closed, and they've opened a second call for sites precisely because of these issues, which they are, as I've just outlined, some of them, numerous, complex, sensitive, emotive. They've opened the second call for sites. That will then close. They may well get another site entered into that. Then they will be doing their Regulation 19 consultation, which I understand might be coming as early as January or February in 2024. So we're December 23 now. We've literally got 1 or 2 months to wait to enter into that again. So I think, picking up from what Councillor English said, we need to put a more full response again into this Regulation 19 consultation, which is quite appropriate for the District Council to do. I would, on the final paragraph there, where it says reconsider its support for KCC plans, I would actually say that our support has been questionable. I think we've demonstrated through the first response, then moving on to the second response, that we do have concerns about this allocation. And I do just take up the invite that was extended to me by a group called Friends of Oaken Wood to go and have a look round on the 30th of December. I'm hoping to do that to again gain more evidence and see it for myself. Yeah, see there. And then I would just say again that we just must remember that we are a district authority feeding into a county process. They hold the minerals plan themselves. They do that level of planning. And from my own portfolio, we put a very robust response into the closure of the Children's Centre consultation that came out with, lots of evidence, lots of facts, lots from the recent census data, entered that in, and it made not a jot of difference to the actual outcome. So I think we just need to bear in mind that that's the territory that we're sort of here in. So with regard to this motion, as it stands today, mindful of the Regulation 19 consultation coming in January and February, I would propose that we as Cabinet vote against this motion with the agreement that there is more work to be done. Thank you.
Councillor Russell, thank you very much. There's a proposal on the table. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by, so proposed by Councillor Mrs. Russell, seconded by Councillor Garson. Does anybody else have anything to say on this matter? Councillor Garson.
Since I'm seconding this, Mr. Chairman, indeed, I listened very carefully tonight to the very eloquent speech of Councillor Jeffrey and also of Councillor English. Councillor English made a very pertinent point that it was down to the timetabling why our response process became a little bit messy, shall we say that. It is regrettable, and we can learn lessons how to probably structure timetables for responses better. So there's a lesson to be learned here. There are further responses and consultations by KCC to which we are all free to respond and take it through the proper PAC committee. And as Councillor Russell just very clearly lined out, it is a KCC process. We are just a comment maker. So it is barely worth it to consider whether we should reconsider our comments, which have been fairly weighed up given the time constraints we had at the time. So I think the train past the station, we should leave bygones like bygones and look forward to the future, see what lessons we can learn from this. Unfortunately, I won't be able to participate at the walk by the Friends of Oaken Wood. I will be out of the country, and I send my apologies already to them, but I'll be very happy to talk to anybody and listen to anybody who likes to put their comments towards me.
Thank you, Councillor Garson. If you raised a quite important point there. If I can just, I think it might be useful to put on record the timetable is indeed regrettable for the response to this consultation, and I take full responsibility for that. I learned from Mark Edgerton about this. However, at the time, we were dealing with our local plan review, and we were dealing with the Minerals and Waste Statement of Common Ground with Kent County Council. It was on that basis that it was decided that we should not be conflating the issues. So an extension to the timetable with Kent County Council was agreed for us to respond to this consultation. And unfortunately, a Pied PAC meeting in the interim was cancelled. The benefit of hindsight, that shouldn't have happened. And again, I take responsibility for that. I'm not sure the outcome would have been much different, other than that the more strongly worded suggestion of a response would have been sent in the first place, as opposed to the slightly weaker response, which I had indeed agreed. But I think that is useful to put on record, because when we talk about timetables and when things come to policy advisory committees, it's very easy to say, well, you know, that's somebody else who writes that report. It was me who made that decision. But thank you, Councillor Garson. And I have Councillor Parfitt-Reid.
Yeah, just very briefly, it was just really to reiterate that we will be actually revising our response because we will have a second bite to the cherry. What we're actually saying here is that we're not going to go back and revise something which has already been decided and finished. We have got a second opportunity in the coming weeks, and I think we should take that opportunity, and obviously it will go through the packs and through due diligence. I can never say that word. It will go through the packs and it will be considered, and hopefully to a conclusion that everybody's happy with.
Thank you very much. So there's a proposal on the table which is to vote down the motion from full council from Councillor Russell, seconded by Councillor Garton. All those in favour, members? That is unanimously approved. Thank you very much. Now move on to agenda item 19, which is the town centre strategy update. I don't know where you're going, Councillor. Sorry, perhaps we'll deal with item number 18 before we move on to 19. Apologies. I move on to agenda item 18, which is the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion annual update. And I invite Councillor Russell to introduce this report.
Thank you, Chairman. I thought you'd forgotten me for a minute there. So here we have the Equality, Diversity, Inclusion annual update. This is obviously an action plan which gets refreshed every year. So the Cabinet have obviously looked through their papers. We've got page 40 to 42 is the updates that we've had on the actions for 2022-23. And then following on from that, page 43 to 47 is moving on to the 2024 action plan. We have the 3 objectives, which is as a community leader, as an employer and as a service provider. And hopefully that you'll see that we've made good progress on the actions from this year. And we've got quite a few actions moving on into 2024 that should really move us forward in this regard. So just a reminder then that this report is for noting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Russell. Nobody is indicating to speak. Therefore, do we note that report, members? Sorry, the report is not for noting. Oh, it is for noting. Are you sure?
Well, there's 2 things actually, sorry. We need to note the progress on the objectives and the action plan, Appendix 1, which is paragraphs 2.4 to 2.5. And then we need to, obviously, with the actions for the action plan, Appendix 2, we need to agree those. That's paras 2.6 to 2.13. Sorry about that.
Are you proposing that we agree?
I am proposing that you agree.
In that case, I'm seconding. Are we all agreed, members? Agreed. Councillor Russell, we need to try to prove to Councillor Burton that we don't need him here for things to run smoothly. So if we could be a little bit more slick this evening, that would be great. I move on now to Town Centre Strategy Update, which is, it has been to the Planning, Infrastructure and Economic Development Advisory Committee. I understand that Councillor English wishes to speak on this, but before I invite Councillor English, I just think it would be pertinent to just give a little bit of an update, because it was quite a robust discussion that was had at the PIDE committee, and it wasn't always the most comfortable discussion. I accept. I was at that committee meeting, but I just wanted to give a little bit of a synopsis of some of the feedback that has been received and informally has been discussed and is being taken forward, just so that I hope that members realise that we do take things on board. So we recognise, so I think front and centre is that we recognise and obviously the executive support the progress of the improvements to lighting. We acknowledge there's an acknowledgement not just from the executive but certainly from the committee of a need for a fresh approach to parking strategy for the town centre. We need good transport links and we need to ensure that we assist low income residents, not just from inside the town centre but from outside. We need better public engagement to include the residential population in the town centre. We need better communications and marketing of the town centre to dispel some of the myths about community safety, etc. We need to do whatever we can to strengthen and sustain the town centre's offer for shopping, including fashion and some of the large brands which are in the town centre. There was a concern amongst the committee that some of the town centre strategy was lacking aspiration. That was certainly noted, and I think we want to pick that up, although, you know, we do need to couch that in being realistic with what we can achieve. You know, there are a number of adverse perceptions of community safety, which I'll just address now. We need more attention to encouraging community and pride in place, and we need more attention as well for community services and infrastructure. We need to have an attractive offer that draws people to Maidstone, that goes beyond retail, that makes our town centre quite a destination, rather than just a place for function and convenience. And emphasis on working with other community groups. I just thought it'd be useful just to give a little bit of a synopsis of that has been discussed amongst the senior officers and cabinet. And Councillor English, do you wish to still speak on this matter?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members, officers. I endorse the proposal to bring forward the lighting and greening strategy as the earliest possible date. There are opportunities there, and there are penalties, financial penalties, for not bringing those things forward. It sounds in a way that I may be pushing an open door, but as a High Street Ward member, you would hardly be surprised at me flagging up the importance to local residents and businesses of getting the car park offer for the town centre right, maximising both the opportunities for people to come in to visit the remaining retail and hopefully increased leisure offer that we need in the town, but also for residents who live in the town and will increasingly live in the town, whatever strategy we adopt, given the local plan and local plan review situation. In all practicality and morally as well, and you don't often hear people talking about morality in council meetings perhaps, but we owe it to the residents and businesses of Maidstone to ensure that if we do increase, we will increase the residential footprint in Maidstone town centre. The issue is not whether it'll be increased; it's an issue of how much and where. But we will be increasing that. We need to make sure that people have the opportunity to actually live in a practical way. I have to bear in mind that a lot of the relatively poorer people in our community don't work in Maidstone. They work in all sorts of areas outside of Maidstone, including fruit packing plants and all sorts of things, and they do need vehicles to access them, because you can't get there by public transport at 6 o'clock in the morning on a shift. You can't get to Amazon warehouse to work at a 10 o'clock shift that starts at 10 o'clock at night on public transport very easily. So we do have to provide these parking options. And if we get this right, we will actually maybe increase the revenue for Maidstone Borough Council overall, which is not an insignificant consideration either. So I know I'm hoping I'm actually pushing an open door on that, but please do take these considerations into account as this strategy evolves.
Thank you very much, members. I see Councillor Garton indicating.
Yeah, I welcome very much Councillor English's comments. The town centre is there for the residents of all of the borough. It's important to say that my residents from Stockbury or Otterden can reach the town centre, that we can take our money to the businesses in the town centre, be it leisure or retail. So parking strategy is a very key word here, and I take exactly what Councillor English says about shift workers who work in the town centre commuting into the town, or who reside near the town centre need to commute out of the town centre to their places of work. These are very, very important issues which we've got to bear in mind, and parking is, whether we like it or not, for whatever reason, but it is the backbone of the business in the town centre as well. So I very much welcome the comments of the leader of the Liberal Party on this one, which I think coincides very much with our own thoughts. As far as the strategy itself and the process of finding the strategy, it has been a long, hard work up to here. I think there are a few lessons to be learned, but I think taking it forward with our best intentions is what we should do.
Thank you very much, Councillor Garson. And I note that you've raised Councillor English's status to the leader of the Liberal Party. If that really were the case, then perhaps he and I might be in the same party, which is a scary prospect, and we might agree on more. Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Chairman. You threw me there for a minute. No, so yeah, I mean, thank you for the update report. I think on page 53, I absolutely agree. The Musgate right issues are the Musgate right issues, and it's proper to keep revisiting them as this moves forward, particularly when we are talking about a strategy that's going to take us right up to 2045. I think we've got to keep those at the forefront of our minds. And I note we were asked to note that and then have a look at and agree the next steps in section 3. And I was pleased to see that one of the next steps is to engage particularly with young people and seldom heard communities, so we capture their views, ideas and aspirations for the future of Maidstone Town Centre, because that's one thing that I'm particularly key on and have been from the start. I'm very interested in capturing their views, particularly when we are, again, talking about such a long-term strategy. So nothing really more to add. I was just going to propose that we note the first bit and that we agree to the next steps in section 3. Thank you.
Seconded by Councillor Mrs. Parfitt-Reid. Thank you very much. Nobody else has indicated to speak. Therefore, do we note the report and recommend the next an agreed recommendation to the next steps? Members in favour? Mrs. Parfitt-Reid. Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you very much, members. Which moves us on to item number 20, which is fees and charges for 2024-25. I will work on the assumption that we have all read our papers for this evening, and obviously these come to the PACs. It is part of an annual review. I just want to raise the changes to the changes to the proposals that were presented to the PACs. So one is that some waste crime penalties were increased, and that's following a report to Cabinet in September 2023. And secondly is the inclusion of mooring fees. So does anyone have anything to comment on these? Councillor Garden.
Continuing where I just spoke about, I think it's important for us to highlight that there will be no increase of any parking charges in the forthcoming financial year. I think that is the most important item I would like to highlight for everybody to know.
Thank you, Councillor Garson. As you are aware, I am also very keen that we don't increase parking charges in this year. Councillor Mrs. Russell.
Thank you, Chairman. Just really following on from what you said in your introduction, the mooring fees was something that came forward through the CLA pack, and also just picking up from what you said about the parking, I think it's important that we notice that the education activities that go on at the museum have not had any increase in the fees and charges, recognising their importance. But other than that, I would just like to move that we note the contents of the report and that we approve the fees and charges as detailed in appendices A and C to E, and that we note the fees and charges policy that is detailed in Appendix B. Thank you.
I'll second that. Are we all in agreement, members? Perfect. Thank you very much. Which moves us on to the last item on our agenda this evening, item number 21, the second quarter finance performance and risk monitoring report, which again has been to the PACs. Just as a very high level synopsis, the report is showing a projected overspend for the year of just shy of £300,000. after taking into account an overspend of £779,000 on temporary accommodation. That's detailed on page 220 of the report. Although, fortunately, the numbers in temporary accommodation do appear to have stabilised for the time being, but there does remain a risk that overspend could be higher. And 16 million of the projected capital spend for the year is projected to slip into 2024-25. It's detailed on page 230. £5.7 million of this was for the fund for corporate property acquisitions, and that was on the basis that there were no suitable opportunities to emerge this year. The remainder represents slippage on a range of other schemes as detailed in the papers. In terms of performance monitoring, the report highlights the 3 areas where performance has fallen more than 10% behind the target. That's page 242, so that's the percentage of successful relief duty outcomes, footfall in the town centre, and the market hall occupancy percentage. And other appendices cover the progress with the recovery and renewal plan, the UK Shared Prosperity Fund programme, and the status of the corporate risk register, and business rates write-offs are contained in Appendix 6, page 266. Nobody has indicated to speak, Councillor Mrs. Parfitt-Reid.
Sorry, I was just going to make reference to the temporary accommodation. Obviously, that is something that we do keep an eye on all the time. It does appear to be stabilising, which is a good thing. Obviously, that feeds into our ambition to deliver 1,000 affordable homes. Obviously, also the purchase of properties that we are doing. I'd say probably on a weekly basis, I'm looking at properties that we are purchasing to hopefully reduce the costs in this area. But it is obviously pressure for the council, and I am aware of that. And it's something that we are doing our best to manage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Parfitt-Reid. Councillor Gardner.
I think, Mr. Chairman, it's important to highlight that this council's administration, and a bit of a pat on the back of all of us in this room, as well as our officers, and first and foremost, Mr. Green, who's head of our financial department, that we're very fortunate to be in a reasonable condition as far as council finance is concerned, local authority finance. A lot of councils up and down the country are struggling at the moment. Of course, we are having risks on the radar, and we are very careful with our financial budgeting. But thank you to all our team supporting us and this administration. And I think we can go into the new year with a little bit of peace of mind that we are on track to produce a balanced budget for next year.
Thank you. Indeed, I concur with your comments. Thank you, Councillor Garton. So I move that we note the contents of the report. Is that noted? Yep. And I further move that we approve the debt write-offs as part of the report. Is that agreed, members? Agreed, unanimous. Perfect. Well, members, thank you very much for your time and patience this evening. And before I close the meeting, if I can just wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and all the very best for 2024. And thank you very much for particularly officers' time this evening. And thank you very much. I now declare this meeting closed.